Okay, so 6.4, we're going to talk about some properties of trig functions. I'm going to have to split this up a couple different different videos because there's quite a bit for this one section. But to begin with, let's go back and look at the unit circle. Now, this is a circle where you can use this a lot to find trig functions. Okay, I started with this in 6.2. So, first look, we're measuring angle x. Okay, and this is a unit circle, which means the radius in every direction is 1. Okay, so if we use our trig functions with that radius of 1, we find sine of x to be equal to b. We find cosine of x to be equal to a. We find tangent of x to be equal to b over a. Now I'm going to use those to show you how we find the other ones. Cosecant is 1 over b, which is, as you can see, since sine is b, it's 1 over sine x. That's our first identity. Secant of x is 1 over a, which is 1 over cosine of x. That's its identity. And then cotangent of x is a over b, which is the inverse of tangent, which is 1 over, or the reciprocal of tangent, which is 1 over tan x. Now let's look at tan x. Tan is equal to b over a, but b is sine and a is cosine. And similarly, cotangent is a over b, which a is cosine and b is sine. That's another identity that we have. If we look at the unit circle again and we talk about a negative x, we are now at a negative b. So if we look at sine of a negative x, it's going to be a negative b, which is negative sine x. If we look at cosine of negative x, you see that the a symbol doesn't change, so it's just equal to just a regular cosine of x. If you look at tangent of negative x, that's going to be negative b over a, which is equal to negative tan of x. Okay? So, there is some of our first basic properties. Now, we know that AB is equal to, since A is cosine of x and B is sine of x, we can write it as that. Okay? And on the unit circle, this unit circle that we were looking at, okay, whatever those guys are, we can say that A squared plus B squared equals that C squared, which is 1. So with replacing what we know what A and B are, cosine of x squared plus sine of x squared is equal to 1. Which, instead of writing it like that, we usually just write it as cosine squared x plus sine squared x equals 1. That's another identity that we use. Now, all these different rules I'm coming up with are what we call identities. They're things that we use for simplifying different things. So let's go over all the different identities that I talked about. Our first ones are called reciprocal. That is saying that cosecant is 1 over sine. Secant is 1 over cosine, and cotangent is 1 over tangent. Okay? Our next group I talked about was quotient properties, identities. This one's identities as well. We showed that tangent of x is equal to sine of x over cosine of x. And then we showed that cotangent of x is equal to cosine of x over sine of x. Okay? Then we showed my identities for negatives. Okay, identities for negatives. Sine of a negative x is equal to, negative sine of x. Cosine of negative x is just equal to cosine of x. And tangent of a negative x is equal to negative tangent of x. And the last one we call the Pythagorean, because I used the Pythagorean theorem to develop it. And it is sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. Okay, that's true for every case.